the sacred music of spirituals. It was carried in the souls of our ancestors. It journeyed with them through the Middle Passage. It provided comfort during great sorrow and served as joyful noises of praise. This music has guided us to the North Star time and time again.
Spirituality has always been a huge part of the African American community, and it has always been the beginning of music.
Because of the central importance that music played in African cultures and then continued to play in African American cultures, religious music was a crucial part of that religious experience.
We know that the slaves during the time of captivity created songs. These are songs that we can say were survival tools for them. They expressed their emotions of joy or sadness through these songs.
Music and faith were inseparable in a lot of ways. That continues into America, both in the early days with the persistence of African religious traditions in America, and then eventually after Black people are converted to Christianity in large numbers in the mid-18th century. Of course, you have Christian music as interpreted by African Americans becoming fundamental, and that's where you have the spirituals eventually emerge by the early 19th century.
Negro spirituals are where African traditions meet Christianity and where hope meets resistance. These songs made the path clear and guided our ancestors' footsteps to freedom.
Slaves, or the African Americans, were able to take idioms of music and add it to what was already in their hearts, and were able to create their own songs.
A lot of songs that started out as spirituals, they're still spirituals, but were developed within African American communities. For example, This Little Light of Mine, Go Tell It on the Mountain. Those are songs that are African American by origin, but are now kind of part of the bigger body of American folk song. And that's in part because of the work of early groups like the Fisk Jubilee Singers.
The Fisk School was established, and the founder and first director of the Fisk Jubilee Singers decided to form a choral ensemble and travel around the United States to raise funds to prevent the school from closing. Originally, he taught his students to sing Western classical music because he was not sure about how people would receive these young Black students. With the help of some of his students, they collected and arranged the spirituals into concert spirituals. But because slavery had just ended, most of the audiences did not respect them, but they used their music to win the hearts of people.
Something like, oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom over me. In the spirituals context, you would sing something like that, and it's just a cappella, solemn, really.
Now, gospel music, which is often kind of conflated with the spirituals, is actually something that emerges in the 1920s and 30s as a result of the combination of that older spiritual tradition with newer developments in popular music coming out of the blues and jazz.
With gospel music, though, when you start adding things like the flat 7 chord, you start adding these chord changes that really were a marriage of jazz and different things at the time. Instead of the slow, solemn feels, that song might go something like, oh, freedom. When gospel music came onto the scene, you still had the foot stomping, hand clapping, but it started adding all of these different chord changes and elements from the blues, from jazz, from lots of the, outside of the church influences, and that is what formed them.
If you look at the career of Thomas Dorsey, known as the father of gospel music, he starts out as a blues pianist, accompanying people like Ma Rainey, for example, and then has a conversion experience and then devotes himself to writing gospel music exclusively, and even creates gospel music itself, taking that older Black religious tradition and introducing elements of the blues and jazz that he played for a living up to that point.
You had a lot of writers, singers come to Chicago, and that became a hub of gospel music and gospel music publishing.
Songs were transcribed to pen and paper. They were put into books. Now it's available for everybody, and now it starts to really permeate the United States. Gospel music absolutely started in the church, but it goes way beyond that. You see it in popular music, all sorts of genres, country, pop, R&B, all of them. You know, you think of people like Beyonce or Jamie Foxx, John Legend, he started in the church.
You know, Kanye West, Snoop Dogg made a gospel album.
All of them got their start in the church, and because of that, that absolutely influences some of the biggest hits that we see now in other genres.
Spirituals and gospel music serve as a soundtrack to the faith and perseverance of African American people, guiding us through slavery, the civil rights movement, and other pivotal moments in history, shepherding us to the promised land. I will sing of your love and justice. To you, Lord, I will sing praise. And all the church said, amen. Amen.
Want to get a closer look at the impact of Black music in America? Visit and support the National Museum of African American Music at nmaam.org.